So next up in this Kingdom Hearts retrospective is not Kingdom Hearts 2, but rather a bridge game called Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, which originally came out on the Game Boy Advance in 2004, but then got a 3D remake that came out in the States in 2008 called Chain of Memories, which is the version most people play nowadays, and the one I did for this video. From what I can tell, this game has a very mixed reputation in the fanbase, mostly due to the drastic shift in gameplay from the first game to this one that turns people away, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The gameplay and the fact that this was originally released on the Game Boy Advance and not the PS2 caused a lot of people to think that they could skip out on this one while they wait for the hotly anticipated sequel to the first game. Only to boot up KH2 the day it came out, see over a dozen new characters that weren't in KH1 that they have no idea who they are but are treated as if they should already know. Nowadays, if you're getting into the series, you know to play Chain of Memories next. After all, it is the second game listed before 2. But I know people who still skipped it for reasons I'm about to get into. Regardless, I got a plot to go over, so let's get into that. So, at the end of the last game, Riku and Mickey are seemingly trapped in the realm of darkness, Kairi is sent back to Destiny Island, and Sora, Dawn, and Goofy were left wandering aimlessly down the winding field. However, Pluto suddenly showed up holding a letter with the King's sigil on it, and the three follow after him, hoping it to lead to either Sora's friends or the King himself. This eventually leads Sora to having an interaction with a man wearing the exact same clothes as the mysterious man secret boss from the first game. He tells him what he needs is on the road ahead of him, but he will lose something important to him in order to get it. With nothing to lose, the trio follows the road and finds themselves at the doorsteps of a huge castle in which, after going inside, the same man closed the door and Donald, finding him suspicious, tries to attack him with that patented thunder magic. But it doesn't work, almost as if he forgot how to do it, and that's because he did forget. The man tells them the moment they step foot in the castle, the trio forgot every skill and ability they knew, leaving them powerless. This is Castle Oblivion, the place where to lose is to find and to find is to lose. He urges Sora to continue his trek through the castle by hinting that maybe Riku is here, which is more than enough motivation to keep Sora going. The man then takes a few of Sora's memories and turns them into a card that allows him to go into the world formed from it. Everything in it though is an illusion, so when Sora runs into residents of Traverse Town like Leon here, he has no idea what Sora is talking about when he brings up Castle Oblivion. Even odder, Leon doesn't even know who Sora is, but somehow knows Donald and Goofy, which makes everyone even more confused. Once everyone gets together, it's clear all their memories are totally screwed up, with different members of the Traverse Town gang remembering spotty details about their time with Sora, despite claiming to have never met. Sora leaves them with everyone understanding there's something bigger afoot, and after leaving the world, Sora has an encounter with the cloaked man again, who's accompanied by another cloaked guy with red hair named Axel, who's one of my favorite characters in this series. The two fight and Sora wins, and Sora gains access to another card that allows him to press further into the castle. But Axel is still alive and kicking, and the whole thing was just a test to see if Sora was ready to take on the rest of Castle Oblivion. He also speaks as if Sora is forgetting someone other than King Mickey and Riku that he's supposed to find. This begins the slow but very steady mindfuck of our main cast, as after walking up the stairs to go to the next world, Goofy can't even remember what the name of the castle is, and seconds later they completely forget about what happened in Hollow Bastion. It becomes clear the further up in the castle they go, the more memories they begin to lose, and they can't even consult Jiminy's journal to check what happened as it's all blank. That to lose is to find and to find is to lose phrase is starting to make a lot more sense now, and the rest of the game sees Sora, Dawn, and Goofy traveling up Castle Oblivion trying to find their friends, but losing more of their memories as they keep going up. While having very strange things happen to them while finding out new revelations about their mysterious adversaries, who you later find out are called Organization 13, a colorful group of 13 cycles that aren't all in this game, but a good chunk of them are present here. The missing memories you become familiar with in subsequent games, but the members who are here though mentally fuck with Sora the entire game. From the moment you meet these people, they spout cryptic riddles, never give straight answers to questions, and shit talk each other behind each other's back, and I love it. See, despite being a part of the same group, individual members clearly have different motives that I'll get into in a second, but the main thing affecting Sora and the gang is them employing the use of this girl named Naminé to alter Sora and Co's memories, essentially making them forget their adventures while inserting memories of her into Sora specifically to push them to come see her, acting as that person that Sora allegedly forgot about. Slowly, Sora's reasoning for climbing the castle becomes less about finding the king and Riku and more about finding Naminé, which Larxene, another org member, says is being held hostage here. And what further complicates things is that one of the org members, Vexen, made this Riku replica, who also has memories implanted of Naminé, and it causes the two to fight over her a lot. Though Sora doesn't know that it's just a fake, so them fighting hits the kid pretty hard, especially after he came so far looking for him, and they just had a positive interaction at the end of the first game. As the game continues, you find out the leader of this whole operation is this guy named Marluxia, who sports a beautiful head of hair, but is evil all the same. To go back to the individual members' motives, some of them are trying to take over the organization and they want to use Sora to do it, hence the whole memory manipulation tactic that they're employing. But others, like Vexen here, simply want to prove and flex his genius, and when his ego gets shattered through Sora promptly handling his Riku replica, and his fellow org members poking fun at him for that, he gets antsy and tries to eliminate Sora, which goes against Marluxia's plan, so he swiftly gets eliminated by Axel. It's important to mention that the world this happens in is a world called Twilight Town, which was created by what Vexen called the other side of Sora's heart, and while Sora knows he's never been here before, the place still feels familiar to him. keep that in mind. Anyways, Sora and Riku fight again, but this time it's because they have the same memory of a scenario of making a promise to Namine and her giving them this good luck charm that couldn't have happened to both of them, and even Don and Goofy afterwards are weirded out by that, and tells Sora that they can't both be right. This leads to Sora lashing out and immediately jumping to conclusions that they think he's wrong, which isn't at all what they meant. They just want him to stop and plan his next move, but Sora kinda acts like an asshole about it and ditches them. Honestly, it's the only part of the story that I don't really jive with, but if I think about it from the perspective of Sora, who by this point fought his best friend like 3 times along with having to deal with the organization spotting nonsense to him, I can kinda understand his frustration. Plus, he's still 14. That is a lot to be dealing with at that age. Regardless, things start coming to a climax when the next world takes Sora back to Destiny Island and he eventually runs into Namine, conjured up from his implanted memories of her. It's made clear throughout the game that she's been doing this against her will, so when she's finally in Sora's presence, you can see it in her face and hear it in the tone of her voice that she feels bad for what she's been forced to do to him. After another Riku fight, this is the point in the game where it's finally told that Sora and Riku's memories are fake and that Namine has these memory altering powers, and that this was all a plan by the org to lure Sora deeper into the castle so that Marluxia can turn him into a puppet so that he can take over the organization. Sora presses on, and as you get closer and closer to the final room, some scenes play out showing Axel was serving as a spy to snuff out traitors in the organization. He even eliminated Vexen earlier just so he can bait Marluxia into showing which side he was on, something he expressed wasn't easy for him, but it is what it is. He and Marluxia then get into a heated battle, culminating in Marluxia using Namine as a shield to seemingly deter Axel, but really it was to get Sora, who just walked in, to fight Axel. Unaware though that Sora knows the truth and he declares he'll defeat the both of them, which he does promptly, but by this point Sora, Donald, and Goofy's memories are completely screwed up, so they ask Namine if she can put them back, which she agrees to and explains that her powers don't actually erase memories, just undoes the links and rearranges them. They're still there, just need to be reconnected. However, if the crew goes through with this, Namine would need to get rid of all the links she made, meaning they will lose all memories of what happened in Castle Oblivion. She leaves the choice up to Sora, who decides he wants his own memories back, but in order to do that, they'll all need to sleep in a pod while Namine works on their memories. Everyone says goodbye, and Sora notes that even though his memories were fake, the feelings he felt were real, and he wants to be friends with Namine after he wakes up, which the two promise on. Jiminy even makes a note in his journal to thank her when they wake up. And with that, the trio sleeps, ending Sora's campaign in Rechain of Memories. Afterwards, you unlock another campaign in the form of Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories Reverse Rebirth. Ugh. You play as Riku after the events of KH1, who was not strong enough to ward off the darkness, so he appeared here in Limbo. A disembodied voice speaks to Riku, telling him that he can stay here or begin his walk towards the truth, which Riku does through taking his Hollow Bastion card that transports him to Castle Oblivion. Riku's campaign is much shorter than Sora's. He's essentially going on a spirit journey through Castle Oblivion, grappling with the darkness that still rests inside him. He doesn't want to rely on it because of everything that happened in the first game, so he resents it. Initially, he wants to rid himself of it completely, but through revisiting the worlds he traveled through in the KH1, he slowly comes to terms with the darkness inside him and uses it for good with the help of King Mickey, who sends apparitions talking to Riku and eventually makes his way into the castle itself. Also, I want to add, I think it's helpful to think of darkness as a sentient force that can overtake people just as easy as it can give them a boost in power. Also, this game really makes Riku feel like shit for what he did in the first game. The disembodied voice in the beginning constantly hammers in the point that Riku pushed his friends away for darkness and really makes him feel more miserable about it than he already is. You pushed your friends away and tried to kill them several times, but at least they gave you a bed. Memory foam too. Riku didn't make any friends in the first game, so all of his worlds here are empty, which in game just means a lot of Riku's worlds are very short because there are no cutscenes. You just beat the one boss at the end of it and move on to the next one. Also, Riku's campaign takes place concurrently to Sora's, so you get to see how Sora's actions were affecting things on Riku's end and vice versa. Like how Vexen acts as the first boss testing Riku's powers, and he uses that data to create the Riku replica, which you find out here that its original purpose was to snuff out and eliminate traitors in the organization. You fight this replica several times, and he has a pretty compelling character arc involving him originally believing himself to be better than the original because he embraced the darkness instead of fearing it, and this distinction causes him to not even want to be like the original and instead be better than him. In one of the cutscenes, Riku Replica resists having Riku's memories placed inside him, but when he realizes he's powerless to stop them from going through with it, I couldn't help but feel bad for him. You also contend with two other members you don't see in Sora's playthrough, Lexius and Zexion. Both loyal to the org, suspicious of Larxene and Marluxia's actions, but one doesn't live long enough to do anything about it because they're cut down by Riku, and after Marluxia is defeated, Zexion tries to take care of Riku himself but meets the same fate. Later on, Mickey gives Riku the card that let him out of the realm of darkness, which turns out to be a Twilight Town card, and after stepping into the world, he runs into a fake Ansem who turns out to be the disembodied voice from the beginning, whose actual name is Diz. He tells Riku to meet up with Namine, who upon arrival tells him that the darkness inside him still holds Ansem, who will attempt to take over his body again at some point, but she can lock his heart so that doesn't happen, but he'll have to be put to sleep like Sora. Riku passes on this offer and instead chooses to confront Ansem directly to defeat him, saying that the darkness will show him the way in the event Ansem overtakes him. After this, Riku swiftly cuts down Ansem and his darkness fills the room, and Mickey pulls up and saves Riku's ass for the third time in this game. The two leave Castle Oblivion, Riku accepting the darkness as his own power and Mickey sticking by him, but before Riku and Ansem's final clash, this gave them both the same close to organization, whereas because it wards off darkness, it makes it really hard for the Order to track their movements, considering that now the two are being hunted by them after leaving the castle. Riku, now armed with light and dark, walks the road to dawn, which ends his portion of Rechain of Memories. After Riku's credits, you see these kids running around Twilight Town with a specific focus placed on one of them, and we will be seeing a lot more of him in the next game. All in all, I'd say I enjoyed Riku's story a bit more than Sora's, mostly because I really like Riku as a character. He and Sora have a similar level of confidence in handling their adversaries, but Riku has more of an edge to him that's fun to watch in cutscenes. You also get to see more organization banter, which is always a treat for me. But alas, it's finally time to talk about the gameplay, which is what turns most people off from this game. So, in Rechain of Memories, every action you do that's not a movement action like jumping or dodge rolling has to be done through these cards. Summons, Keyblade swings, using items, healing, it's all done through the card system. Each card has a number on it ranging from 0 to 9, and every action you choose will be like playing a card, in which the higher numbered cards have priority over the lower numbered cards. So say you and an enemy attack each other at the same time, the higher numbered card takes priority and the enemy cannot attack you. But this also goes for you too. If you attempt to swing at an enemy with a low numbered card and it doesn't beat it, you just won't attack and you have wasted your card, and you only get your cards back after reloading them, which you have to stand still to do, and that leaves you open to be attacked. So in battles, you're basically playing a numbers game while avoiding attacks, and when you run out of cards after getting your licks in, you need to find a time to safely reload to continue your offense, which reloading takes longer and longer the more you do it, capping out at 3 charges. You can also interrupt cards by playing a higher number against an enemy's lower number, which causes a break to occur, staggering the enemy and leaving them open for follow-up attacks. You can also do this at any time by using a 0 card, which breaks any card value no matter how high. All of that also applies to you too. You can customize your deck with various card types enemies drop, stronger cards taking more card points to put in your deck, weaker cards taking less. I personally really enjoy customizing my deck in this game, mostly due to one mechanic called slights. See, every time you level up, you get to choose to boost your max HP, your max card point count to equip more cards, and then the best option, the ability to learn a new slight. Slights are moves that Sora can perform when combining 3 cards together that total up to a certain amount or are different types. For example, I could combine 3 cards of different types together that also add up between 10 and 15 and get Blitz, a hard-hitting 3-hit combo that against most normal enemies is hard to break. Or, way later, I could combine a time magic card into attack cards of any type together and get Lethal Frame, arguably the best sleight in the game as it freezes time on one enemy and Sora does a flurry of attacks that do a shit ton of damage. And since the opponent is frozen, they can't retaliate with a 0 card or a sleight of their own. It's great for boss fights, but that being said, they can use slights too, and at that point it's up to you if you want to use your 0 card that you probably don't have a lot of due to them being the most costly cards to put in your deck. Or you can attempt to dodge the sleight entirely through rolling, which is totally possible and in some cases more beneficial than just breaking the sleight. That being said, they had to balance them somehow though, so you can't necessarily spam slights as the first card you use in the sleight will be gone until the battle ends, even if you attempt to reload it. So unless you have a surplus of cards, it may be in your best interest to save your slights for later in the battle if you can help it, unless you grind and get those card points up. Another mechanic to make fights easier is that after you beat bosses, you usually collect their card, which can have a range of effects. Admittedly, I made seldom use of these, but some of them are really useful, like the Fire Boost card against Vexen or the Attack Bracer card against Lurkseen. I really enjoy organizing my deck to play certain cards in sequence so I can immediately use a sleight if need be, but when the pressure is on, it can be really fun frantically skimming through your deck in a panic while dodging enemy attacks, trying to find that last card you need for your broken sleight. Due to slights, enemies aren't usually annoying to deal with, as after a certain point you can just clear whole rooms with 1 or 2 slights and get a move on. Or your card values are too high for them to deal with, so they don't pose much of a threat. And even if they are, there's plenty of ways to make them easier. On top of battle cards dropping from enemies, you also get room cards. Every world in this game is kinda like a diorama of the worlds in KH1. They're all blocky and simple with few variations on the structure of the room, but you can change the room's properties depending on what room card you use to form the room. There's plenty of effects to choose from, like making a room filled with strong heartless with higher number cards for grinding, or making the enemies super weak so you can get a move on. You can also make the enemies fall asleep, take more damage when doing a preemptive strike on them, or just straight up make the room a treasure room with a chest in it that gives you a random attack card or even a sleight if you're lucky. As long as you fulfill the door's requirement and have the appropriate card, you can make a room whatever you want, but since everything is dropped at random, that does mean if you burn through all your cards or don't have the specific prerequisite the room asks for, you may have to stop and grind until you do have it, which isn't very fun, but at least you're getting stronger while doing it. Even though it is blatant padding. I was competing in a race through Sora's campaign, and I cannot stress enough how much slights and good movement can allow you to speed through the game. I barely upgraded my HP because I won't lie, dealing with the shit the later games throw at you has gotten my skills up to the point where I didn't really need the extra help, which allowed me to get a lot of card points and slights early, so I was speeding through bosses initially. That was until I got to Vexen, cause good lord, this man has no right to have attacks this annoying while being able to revive himself once you beat him once. I was stuck here for about an hour, but I still made it through eventually. But why did they make you fight this man twice back to back? Riku Replica 2, you fight this man like 3 times, sometimes back to back, and it gets a little tiring. But generally speaking, the boss fights are enjoyable, especially Marluxia's boss. I really enjoyed the first fight with him as well as the first and last phase of him as the final boss. His death duel mechanic seems intimidating at first until you realize you can just spam all your cards at him and beat him, and he falls to lethal frame like all the rest, so he wasn't tough to beat. Playing as Riku in comparison is a lot less complex. His decks are all presets, so you don't have to pick what cards you have. What you're rocking and how much changes every world, which sounds like it would be more difficult, but trust, it's not. You usually have some combination of high number cards or a 0 that allows you to break enemy cards, and even if you don't, Riku can still change the rune's properties the same way Sora can. But unlike Sora, Riku can duel his opponents if he and the enemy play a card with an equal number, and at that point, it's similar to the Marluxia minigame, but a little more strict. Get it right though, and you deal out massive damage to your opponents, and this isn't even the only edge Riku has. If you keep breaking enemy cards, you can use Riku's Dark Form, which has a faster attack speed, more punishing duel damage if you win, and slides that just break the game in half. None of the bosses with Riku gave me any trouble, and Ansem was no different. His campaign was too easy. But that's a part of the fun for me. I like breaking this game using powerful sleights and strategy. I may not replay this one too often, but when I do, I have fun, which only came once I understood how to manipulate the mechanics to my advantage, and even when I know what to do, I still get a little pushback from the game, so it's not completely mindless after a certain point. But I totally get if people pass on this one. It's a drastic shift from the first game in mechanics while still controlling like the first at a surface level, and not everyone will get used to it or like the card mechanics. Wouldn't judge anyone for choosing to watch the cutscenes online. At least not out loud. But that does it for Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. I'm gonna throw in a smaller video between this and the Kingdom Hearts 2 video because I'm imagining that video is gonna be a pretty chunky one. Anyways, I hope everyone has a good day, stay safe, and peace. This time I'm holding the microphone. But yeah, as always, if you made it to this part of the video, thank you for watching. Thank God, didn't take me this long to make this one this time. But I feel like the next video is going to be something that's really cool. It's a game that I've been playing that I really like so far, and can't wait to share that. But yeah, I gotta head out, so I will see you when I see you. Stay safe as always, and peace.